Hiya, hiya, I'm caught between a Twitter and a hard place. Or is that the hard place and a tweak and a Twitter? Everybody's talking about how this guy's buying gossip. You know, Musk is he's an adventurer. He wants to go into outer space. He wants to put out these cars that are better than the ones that we were making. He wants to spend his money in a meaningful way and get out there and offer freedom of expression and keep the ball rolling in the area that this country is great. And I think he is on the right track, but I think he's got the wrong train. I'll tell you why. Okay, first of all, here's the skinny. Radio and television are monitored and are, I would say, under the laws of the Federal Communications Commission, which have since been altered. That's why I said it slowly. Now, the FCC used to grant you the right to own a radio and a TV station for a limited time. You were allowed to own the station and use it for propaganda, for music, for whatever you want to put on there, as long as you were following the guidelines of the Federal Communications Commission, which incidentally, the commissioner is appointed by the president and the FCC is under the Congress of the United States. So the rules were set years ago for you to have a limited amount of enjoyment. In other words, if you were a person who wanted to have a radio station in New York, you could apply for it if there were an opening on a frequency, or you could find one on AM, FM, or on TV. If you find a frequency, then you apply for it. And this big whole ascertainment to determine what the needs of the community are. You find out what they need, and then you say you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and you put in your subscription, you know, and you start to join the club of ownership. And the FCC will say, okay, you know, this guy looks like he's okay, and the ruling body says, yeah, let's give them the license. And you give a license for about a few years, and then you got to renew it. And if you play the game properly, you can get another renewal of the license. If you don't, you can be fined or lose the license and never broadcast again. So that's the FCC rules, okay? Now, the FCC has been guiding this process since, I think, 1929 or something like that. The Communications Act was in place. But what happened was the altering of it is we decided that you don't need to own just 5 stations or 7. You can own as many as you can buy. So enter iHeart, which is a made-up name for a company they bought that was called Clear Channel. And there was another one called Cumulus Broadcasting. Now, they own about half a dozen stations. Then they went into owning 600, 700, 800. And iHeart owns 1,000 of them. And they own all these stations in all of these cities where the towers are serving the community. And they're supposed to serve the community. Well, they're bankrupt. Both of those companies are bankrupt. iHeart's bankrupt, you know. They're trying to dig out. So how do they dig out? By joining up with the internet, which is not under the FCC. The internet is freedom of expression, freedom of law, freedom of everything, you know, that unless you do something really wrong, then you get sued anyway by a lawyer. But here you got the freedom ride on the internet for iHeart and Cumulus. So they're selling their properties, and maybe the only thing they really own is the land that the towers are on and the buildings that they own. And they're selling those buildings, and they are now trying to package the stations to get rid of them because people don't listen to radio the way they used to. They listen to their phone. And the phone could use those towers. That's how you have 5G, because of the broadband from television not using that space. That's what 5G means. It means more space, more quality, broadband. That's what they mean by that. That's what that means. Okay, so now you got a country that's run by a couple of companies. They the broadcast guys. They own all of the properties. They own as many as they can eat. Now you got a guy who is Elon Musk, and he's decided that he's going to buy the Freedom Train. He's going to buy the thing that is nothing to do with broadcasting, no towers, no licenses. He's just buying the internet. And the internet is going to be free until the Congress decides that they want to have the FCC control it. He's not thinking. So people only allow a certain amount of freedom, and then all of a sudden they see there's money in it. Uh-oh, there goes the freedom, because someone wants to make a profit, and welcome to America. So they probably will put this under the FCC eventually, and the FCC will rule, the governing body will rule the internet. And then you got to be careful what you say. You can't say those 7 naughty words. Remember that? Which actually was started by George Carlin as a comic. It wasn't even real. So they adopted that philosophy of clean language and family-style broadcasting, and not going over the borders and the boundaries and all this business. And that seems to be history now. So you can do whatever you want, say whatever you want on the internet so far. Now, what happened with the broadcast facilities is now that they're losing their listenership, and they don't have the sponsorship, and they don't have the ship together. They don't have any of their ship together. So what they're doing is they are now turning into religious stations, because the religious people have some money and they're buying the AM and the FM properties, and they have a lot of Christian broadcasters and other religions too, but mostly Christian broadcasters. Like WIBG in Philadelphia is I Believe in God, IBG. WKBW in Buffalo, well-known Bible witness. They always had that in them anyway. So I'm thinking that, with that Twitter with Elon Musk, and when the FCC moves in, now after the FCC moves in, he's not going to want to have that Twitter, because it's not free anymore like it is. You can't say anything you want to say or do whatever you want to do. The government's going to be interfering in that thing. So they're going to have to sell it to religion. So Twitter will become a religious station, a religious service. It will be, oh yes, you'll be tweeting yourself very well, Elon, until the FCC moves in, and then it's going to be tweet or trick or tweet. That's good. Most of it will be a trick, but that's okay. You got billions of dollars. What do you care? You go home. You can always use your credit card. The rest of us are just sitting here looking for work. I'm on this broadcast because I want to be, and I'm on the internet so far. So far. Nobody stopped me, but they've censored me. They won't put me on Facebook with certain things. They kind of monitor it, so they have self-monitoring. The YouTube is, they'll do certain things, and they'll make sure that you are user-friendly and you're not abusive and you're not going criminal on them. Did something just fall back there? I think it was a bird. I have that effect on birds, I'm kind of petered out, but I'm twittered out, is what it is. So this is the story. You're going to see a change in our society. So you may as well enjoy the free ride, or we're going to be like Russia, where they have no Twitter, they have no treat, they have nothing. They have government running all of the broadcasting so that you believe only what they say, because you're not going to hear anything else. So far, the internet has been able to break through to Russia and China. China's kind of iffy, but as long as we still do business with them, they'll let us play. But the other countries, they don't want this. Iran doesn't want this. They don't like having this expression. They don't like our American way, which is to let everybody do whatever they want to do. It's called freedom. Remember that? First Amendment, I think, too, is the Declaration of Independence. But you got to study history. Hey, on yesterday's wrap, I said that. Let's go back to history and then start doing the math in schools when we're kids. Teach us all about money. Teach us all about how we got here. And I'm not talking about the caveman. I'm talking about how we got to this country the way we got to this country. And then we're going to figure it out. We got to all sit in the same room and be mad at each other for a while. Go to our corners and come out fighting. And that's how you run a country. But I'm not running for office, so don't get that idea. And I'm not trying to be anything. And it's working just fine. It's a Reynolds Wrap.